let's talk about a huge and honestly a really dangerous assumption so many of us make before we travel. We just kind of figure that our health insurance from home will have our back, no matter where we are on the globe. But as we're about to see, that's a massive blind spot that can have some pretty serious consequences. So, I'll ask you straight up, are you positive your health plan works when you're abroad? It sounds like a simple question, right? But the answer is so important. Way too many travelers find out the hard way when it's already too late that their plan basically becomes useless the second they leave the country. Let's make this feel real for a second. Picture yourself on that dream vacation you've been planning forever. Everything is just perfect, until it's not. That sudden pain, that unexpected injury, and next thing you know, you're in a local hospital. The first thing you're worried about is your health, obviously, but then a second wave of panic hits you when the bill comes, and you realize you are completely on your own to pay it. Okay, let's really get into this. We're moving from the what-if scenario to the cold, hard numbers. The financial risk we're talking about here isn't just a few $100. No, we're talking about costs that can genuinely change your life. Even for a pretty basic ER visit or a short stay in a hospital in another country, you could easily be looking at a bill for thousands and thousands of dollars. And here's the real kicker. Unlike back home, they often want that payment right there, up front, out of your pocket before they'll even let you leave. All right, now let's talk about something that is, well, it's just terrifying. The cost of an evacuation. If you get seriously hurt or sick in a remote place, or even just a country without top-notch medical care, the flight to get you to a proper hospital can cost over $50,000. I mean, that's the price of a luxury car, just for one flight. That's a cost almost nobody is ready to just pay on a whim. So, after all that doom and gloom, you're probably wondering, what's the solution? How do you actually protect yourself from this stuff? Well, this is where a very specific kind of financial safety net comes into play, and it's called travel medical insurance. It is built for this exact problem. So let's be super clear on what this is. This is not your regular health insurance. Think of it as a temporary policy that is laser-focused on one thing, covering emergencies that happen while you're traveling overseas. It's not for your annual checkup. It's for the big, unexpected things that can totally wreck your trip and your bank account. So, what do you really get when you buy one of these policies? I mean, what's actually in it? Understanding the key benefits is so important to see why it's such a game changer. Let's break down the main things it usually covers. All right, let's look at the core benefits. First, and this is the big one, is emergency medical coverage. This pays for the hospital bills, the doctors, the surgery, you name it. Then you've got that crazy expensive medical evacuation we just talked about, which can be a total financial lifesaver. Policies also cover something called repatriation of remains. Now, it's a tough thing to think about, but if the absolute worst were to happen, the policy handles the massive cost and complexity of bringing a loved one home. And finally, that 24/7 assistance is like having a lifeline in your pocket, someone who speaks the language and can help you figure out a foreign hospital system when you're at your most vulnerable. And just look at the scale of this protection. We are not talking about small amounts of money here. The limits for your medical bills can go from $50,000 all the way up to $1 million, sometimes even more. And the evacuation coverage, that's often between $100,000 and $500,000. The point is, these policies are designed to handle truly catastrophic, budget-destroying costs. And hey, it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. If you take one big trip a year, a single trip plan is probably perfect for you. But if you're constantly on the road for work, a multi-trip annual plan can save you a ton of money and hassle. There are even special plans just for students studying abroad, or just for that evacuation coverage. You can really find one that fits how you travel. Okay, so when you're actually shopping around, here are the key things you have to look for. First, what's the maximum medical limit? Is that enough for where you're going? Next, what's the deductible? That's the part you pay first. You also want to look really closely at the rules for pre-existing conditions. And here's a huge one. Look for something called direct billing. That means the insurance company pays the hospital for you so you don't have to put thousands of dollars on your credit card. Now, this is a super common point of confusion, so let's clear it up. Travel medical insurance is for temporary trips and emergencies. Think vacations. International health insurance is for people who are living abroad long-term, like expats or digital nomads. It's a full-on, comprehensive plan that covers routine stuff like a physical plus emergencies. They're two totally different products for two totally different situations. All right, so let's bring this all back home. How does this apply to you personally? How do you actually decide if this is something you really need for your next trip? Look, every decision has its pros and cons, right? The pros are pretty obvious. You get affordable peace of mind knowing you're protected from a huge financial disaster. On the other hand, you have to remember it's not for routine stuff, and the coverage for pre-existing conditions can sometimes be limited. It's for emergencies, and that's both its greatest strength and its limitation. So, who absolutely 100% should be thinking about getting this? Well, pretty much any tourist or vacationer heading overseas, students who are studying abroad and aren't covered by their school, and definitely anyone traveling to a country where you know the medical care is super expensive. And just to be totally clear, some people don't need this specific product. If you're an expat and you've already got that big, comprehensive international plan we talked about, you're good. And obviously, if you're just traveling inside your own country, your normal health insurance should have you covered. All right, so you've decided you need it. Awesome. But you don't want to overpay. So here are 4 quick tips. 1. Always compare quotes from different companies. 2. If you choose a higher deductible, like say $500 instead of 0, it'll lower your price. 3. Don't pay for extra bells and whistles you don't actually need. And 4. If you travel a lot, that annual plan is almost always a better deal. So we'll leave you with this final question to think about. Is the pretty small price of one of these policies worth it to avoid a potentially catastrophic financial risk? When you really weigh the cost of a policy against the possibility of a life-altering medical bill from overseas, the choice becomes pretty clear, doesn't it? At the end of the day, it's not just about insuring your trip. It's about protecting your entire financial future.